Okay, good evening everyone, and welcome back to another week of the weekly Parsha. We're moving through Sefer Shmos rapidly. We're holding over here already by BESHALACH, which is the famous Song of the Sea and the parting of Kriyas Yamsuf, and the miracles that HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes for Klal Yisrael, the destruction of the Mitzrim, the Bizas Hayam, which is all of the riches of the Egyptians that float to the surface, and Klal Yisrael is able to take them for themselves, and the rest of the story of Klal Yisrael begins to unfold here in the wilderness. I'd like to focus on an idea, something that we've spoken about certainly over the years, over the weeks, about the weakness of Klal Yisrael, even when everything seems to be going amazing for our nation and for the people. We have right after the Kriyas Yamsuf, right after the splitting of the sea, so Klal Yisrael seems to have a bit of a downfall in their direction that they are taking. They get to a place where there's no water, and they begin to, once again, complain. Which is, as we've discussed many, many times, something that the Jewish people were the experts of complaining. If you want to ever go to certain nations, they're the experts in different things. In France, they're probably the experts in znus and illicit relations. And if you want to go to America, you'll find they're the experts of chasing after the dollar and everything else of emptiness. And if you go to England, maybe they're the experts over there of whatever they might be. But if you want to come to the Jewish people, you'll find that we are the experts of complaining. You'll never find a Jew that doesn't know how to complain. You'll never find a family that doesn't know how to sit around the Shabbos table and kvetch and complain. And you'll never find a Jew that even at the height of the greatest things that are going on, somehow they could find one thing, if not more, to complain about. And Klal Yisrael, let's just have in mind where they're coming from at this point. They're coming from the greatest miracle that has ever happened in the history of the world. The Jewish people have had 10 months of makos, of the plagues, 10 months where HaKadosh Baruch Hu manipulated all of nature for the sake of Klal Yisrael. He destroyed the Egyptians. He leveled their land. Makkah after Makkah after Makkah, plague after plague. He took the Jewish people from a nation that enslaved them for so many years, and he brought them to Geula, to redemption, on a night like no other. He killed all of the firstborns. Paro says, "Get out of here, I don't want to see you anymore." And they begin running for their lives into the wilderness. They get to the Yamsuf, to the sea, and the Egyptians have changed their mind, and they're breathing down their necks, and there's nowhere for Klal Yisrael to go. Behind them are the Mitzrim, are the Egyptians. To the right of them are scorpions. To the left of them are snakes. In front of them is a yam, is a sea that is not split. They have nowhere to go. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells them, just go, don't worry. If you will believe, the sea is going to split. And lo and behold, they jump in, and the sea splits in front of their very own eyes, and every single one of Klal Yisrael is saved, and they walk into redemption. They walk into freedom on the other side of the sea. The Egyptians run in after them. HaKadosh Baruch Hu closes the waters, and every single one perishes in the drowning of the sea. Klal Yisrael is standing on the other side of the sea. The Egyptians now are being spit out one by one, so that Klal Yisrael will be able to understand that all their enemies are dead. And as we know, they had a lot of gold, they had a lot of jewels, a lot of silver that was on the horses that they were going out into battle with. And it all washed up on the sea. And the Jewish people now are becoming multi-billionaires, quadrillionaires over here, just like that. Life is very, very good for Klal Yisrael. Miracle after miracle, we see that we are the most beloved nation in the world. HaKadosh Baruch Hu just turned over heaven and earth for us. And all we have to do is Tavdun Elokim al Har, is that just follow Moshe Rabbeinu and get to the mountain where he wants us to go, Har Sinai, and serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's it. It's pretty simple. Life is not so complicated. Hashem makes it very easy. I love you. You're my favorite nation. I'm saving your lives. I'm bringing you a geula redemption. I'm going to even part the sea, which is a miracle beyond miracles. And remember when Klal Yisrael was walking through the sea, and they were seeing all the miracles that Hashem was doing, they were able to point with their finger to the Rabbi Shalom and say, Zeh Keli Vanveh, this is my God. I will glorify Him. They reached levels that even the greatest prophets of all times could never ever reach in their life. So Klal Yisrael is very close to Hashem right now. Their awareness is incredible. And their feeling of self-worth as a nation is something that has gone to the nth degree because they know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is watching out for them in everything they do. And all you have to do is one thing. Just leave the Yam Suf and follow Moshe Rabbeinu into the wilderness. You're going to go to a mountain called Har Sinai. You're going to receive the Torah and you'll live happily ever after. That's all that you have to do. Nothing complicated about that. It's like a person wakes up in the morning. It's pretty easy. You wake up in the morning, you come to shul, you put on your tefillin, and you daven. It's not so complicated. That's all you have to do. You got to go to work. You have to be honest at work. You don't cheat the government. You don't cheat your boss. You don't cheat your clients. You be honest. You come home, you talk nicely to your wife. Be nice to the children. You make your brachas on your food. You go to learn a little bit. It's a pretty simple life. There's not so many complications. And Klal Yisrael is at a moment right now where life is very simple. We've just been saved. We have been redeemed. Hashem made miracles for us that He never made for any other nation in the history of the world. The splitting of the sea, Kriyas Yamsuf, is the greatest nace that was ever seen before to mankind. And now just follow Moshe Rabbeinu to the Har, to Mount Sinai, receive the Torah. But it doesn't always work out so simply for Klal Yisrael. We tend to like to complicate matters more than we need to. Vayasa Moshe es Yisrael miyamsuf. Moshe Rabbeinu, he forced Klal Yisrael to leave the Yamsuf, to leave the place where the sea was just split. Vayetzu al midbar Shur, and he took them out to the wilderness of Shur. Vayelchu shloshes yamim bamidbar, and they walked 3 days in the desert. V'lo motzu mayim, and they could not find any water. I mean, there's not much water in the desert to begin with, so it shouldn't be such a chiddush. They couldn't find water. There was no natural spring over there. There was nobody selling bottled water. That's 9.5 on the scale over there of whatever you call electrolytes, whatever they're called. They couldn't find that. So that's normal. But what does it mean over Vayasa Moshe? Moshe forced them to leave the Yam Suf. Why would they want to stick around the Yam Suf? The miracle was done. They know that the whole point is to go into the wilderness, to come to Har Sinai to get the Torah. Why is Moshe Rabbeinu is forcing them away? Rashi points out, he's seeing Bal Korcham. Moshe Rabbeinu had to push them against their will to start traveling away from the Yam Suf. She'itchu Mitzrayim esuseyem b'tachshit ezav v'kesev avanim tov. Because the Egyptians, remember, they're running after the Jews and they're trying to come and catch them. But before they ran out of Egypt, they made sure to adorn their horses with gold and silver and fine stones. And now that they drowned in the sea, and Hashem spit them all out, all of the gold, all the silver, all the stones was right there at the edge of the sea. And all of the gold that they received at the Yam Suf was even greater than all the riches they received when they were leaving Egypt. Like it says, and therefore Moshe had no choice. He had to extract them from the Yam Suf, and he had to push them along the way so that they would begin to travel. So we're already not starting on the best foot over here. Klal Yisrael is not supposed to become these money-hungry people. Again, you just witnessed miracles. You're holding by the most spiritual moments in the history of Klal Yisrael. You're pointing to the Shekhinah. You see how HaKadosh Baruch Hu saved you. You saw there's miracle within miracle within miracles. Remember in the Haggadah, it tells us that at the Yam Suf, there were 50 miracles, or 100 miracles, or 200 miracles, or 250 miracles. There were loads of miracles taking place, much more than took place in Mitzrayim. You're worrying about gold and silver? Is that what you're looking at right now? You want to become a bazillionaire from the booty over there of the Mitzrayim? Moshe Rabbeinu says, that's not what we're here for. We have a mission. Our mission is keep marching forward. And so therefore he forced Klal Yisrael out, so they're already, I would imagine, in a bad mood. They're in the middle of getting all this gold and this silver and these diamonds and these pearls. And here comes old Moshe Rabbeinu and he says, come on, let's go, we got to move. And the Jewish people are not really interested in moving right now. They want to take as much as they possibly can. But Moshe Rabbeinu says, so they begin moving. They end up in the wilderness and they're walking around, and 3 days come and 3 days go, and they cannot find any water. Okay, you can't find any water. But you're Klal Yisrael. You're the miracle nation. Hashem did everything for you. He manipulated all the laws of nature for your sake. He split the sea for your sake. You know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves you, He takes care of you, He cares about you, He's watching over you. You know that. V'yavayu marasa, they came to a place called Mara. And you know what? There happened to be water there, but they couldn't drink the water. Because the water was bitter. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not like playing games with Klal Yisrael. They come to the wilderness, they can't find any water. They start looking around, finally they get to a place called Mara. Lo and behold, there's water over there. So they go to drink it, but they can't because it's bitter water. And therefore, then they begin complaining against Moshe Rabbeinu. What are we going to drink? Moshe, what are we going to drink? What are we going to drink? Hashem just split the sea. HaKadosh Baruch Hu just made nisim, nigloyim, open miracles for each and every one of you. You're worrying right now, what are you going to drink? Water is like the smallest thing in this whole story. A glass of water is the tiniest of all things. HaKadosh Baruch Hu made all the water in the Nile turn into blood. And when a Jew would take out a cup of that water, and a mitzvah would put in a straw, and a Jew would put in a straw, so we all know the famous midrash. The straw that would go into the mouth of the Egyptian was blood, and the straw in the mouth of the Jew was water. You know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to give you water. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, He made heaven and earth turn upside down for the sake of proving His might and His power and His grandeur against the Egyptians to show Klal Yisrael who He really is. See, you're worrying about a glass of water? After all the miracles, is that what you're worried about? And they begin to complain and cry to Moshe Rabbeinu, what are we going to drink? Now Moshe Rabbeinu does not delay at all. Vayitzak el Hashem, he cries out to Hashem. Remember, when he's coming to when the Klal Yisrael is coming to the Yam Suf, and the sea is not splitting, so Moshe Rabbeinu, he cries out, and Hashem says, I don't want your tears. I didn't ask you to cry out right now. Just go, I just want you to move. I'm not asking for any davening right now. And so Moshe Rabbeinu has no choice, and Klal Yisrael jumps in, and Hashem splits the sea. Over here, though, HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't argue with Moshe Rabbeinu. If the Jewish people are complaining, you better cry to Hashem to ask Him for help. And so Moshe Rabbeinu cries out, Vayitzak el Hashem, Vayireu Hashem eitz. Hashem shows him, He reveals to him there's a piece of wood that is there, a tree. V'yashlech el hamayim, and He throws this tree into the water. V'yimteku hamayim, and then the water became sweet. Sham sam loy choyko mishpat v'sham nisahu. The water became sweet over there, and He established a law and ordinance for it, and there it tested them. Says the pasuk, says the verses over here. Klal Yisrael is leaving Kriyas Yam Suf, everything is going amazing. They end up in the wilderness, and now suddenly they can't find water. So then they do find water, and lo and behold, it's bitter. So then they begin crying to Moshe Rabbeinu. And Moshe Rabbeinu, they complain to Moshe. So Moshe Rabbeinu then cries out to Hashem, and Hashem says, don't worry, here's the wood, you throw the wood in, and everything becomes sweet, and suddenly everything is okay. It's a very unusual exchange over here. Klal Yisrael itself acts and behaves in I would say, almost a pretty immature way, considering that they're just coming. You know, it's like sometimes you see a person like what you would expect them to be like a mature human being, and they act very childishly. And you just maybe saw this person act in such a way that was, wow, this person's really amazing. And then you see them, you know, kids love to catch their parents doing such a thing. There was a Rav that came to town a few years ago. I think his name is Rav something Miller. And he's an English Rav, originally from England. And when he lived in England, so he was called by the Torah Masar, and he was asked to come and be one of the keynote speakers in the Torah Masar convention in America about chinuch habanim, about raising children. And so it was a very big to-do. His whole family was very excited. It was a very big covet to him. And he was Rav Gershon Miller, is his name. And so Rav Gershon Miller was very excited, and the whole family was excited. It was a big deal. And one day, before the convention, so he got in an argument with his daughter, his teenage daughter. And his daughter was bothering him, and she was saying certain things, and he responded in a certain way that his daughter felt was beneath the level of how her father should be treating her. So she turned to her father and she says, oh, and you're the rabbi that they're flying into America to give the class of how to raise your children, aren't you? Which means that when you see someone who's on such a lofty level act on such a lower level, it's very surprising. Klal Yisrael was on a very lofty level at this moment, and they're acting rather childishly. They're complaining to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, there's no water around, there's nothing for us to do. What are we going to do? And the question is, why are you complaining? Why are you worrying? Hashem makes miracles for you. If Hashem makes miracles for you, a glass of water is the last thing in the world that you have to worry about. So Rav Hirsch writes over here a very beautiful idea. And perhaps we can begin to understand what the quandary that Klal Yisrael was in, what they were going through. And he writes the following idea. Klal Yisrael just came from all the miracles, all the makkos, all the plagues in Mitzrayim. They came through the Kriyas Yamsu, the splitting of the sea, and they were well aware that when there are extraordinary moments in their history, when there are moments that require the greatest of miracles for Hashem to do, so then HaKadosh Baruch Hu has no problem of making the greatest miracles of all time, because apparently that is exactly what Klal Yisrael needed at that moment in their historical time, for the history of the Jewish people to continue moving forward, for us to be redeemed, for us to have a geula, redemption, and to go marching into the wilderness. But they only understood that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is with them in the most miraculous and extraordinary of times. Because from the moment that they initially cried out to Hashem in Mitzrayim, to now at this moment where the sea has been split and they got all the riches and they're moving and marching towards Har Sinai, everything has been extraordinary, miraculous, nisim, miracle, revealed miracles one after the other. So when HaKadosh Baruch Hu needs to do that, so then we see that Hashem will take care of us. But how does a Jew know that in the day-to-day living that I have, how does a Jew know that in the basic things that I require from my life, how does a Jew know that in these simple things and of life, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to take care of me in that just as much as He takes care of the miraculous in the extraordinary moments in my life? And therefore they said, in the big things we trust HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But how do we know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is literally watching over every little single detail of our lives, and that we can trust in Hashem for that as well. It's a bit counterintuitive thinking. I would have thought that if Hashem does the big things, then of course the miraculous things, of course He does the small things as well. But in the mind of Klal Yisrael at this moment, they ask themselves, we see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does big things and miraculous things, and He turns over heaven and earth for our sake. But how do we know that in the daily living, the glass of water, the roof over our head, the shoes on our feet, how do we know in those moments of our life, how do we know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is watching over and He's running everything and caring for things in the same way that He does in the miraculous ways? And therefore says Rav Hirsch that this was the beginning of the nisayon, of the challenges to Klal Yisrael, that Amunah, our faith in Hashem, is not only in the miracles that HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes, but we are Amunah in HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in the little tiny things in a person's life, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is taking care of everything that we have, everything that we need, everything that we want, everything in our lives is being taken care of by Hashem. The Ramban actually writes at the end of last week's Parsha that from the open and revealed miracles that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made at Kriyas Yamsuf, Yitzias Mitzrayim and the like, that allows us to understand that everything that is going on in this world is actually a miracle in front of us. What we take for granted, the breathing and the seeing and the walking and the drinking and the eating and the job that we have, what we take for granted, all of that is also a miracle. And when there are open miracles and bigger miracles and miraculous miracles that take place, it's just supposed to teach us that every little thing that we're going through in life is nothing short of a nace, of a miracle. Klal Yisrael has, according to Rav Hirsch over here, they were living in the mode of nisim, of miracles. And they weren't sure, can we trust Hashem in the small things as well? Is HaKadosh Baruch Hu going to give me a glass of water in the midbar when there's no water around, just like He split the sea? Maybe for that, I'm going to be on my own. Is the Ribbono Shel Olam going to give me a roof over my head, just like He made the bara, the hail come down from heaven with fire and water uniting together as one to destroy the land of Egypt? I don't know, said the Jewish people. Says Moshe Rabbeinu, let me teach you something, and I need to teach you a very important lesson. And that is that just as the Ribbono Shel Olam took care of you with miracle after miracle after miracle, HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes care of you minute after minute, one small thing after another, every little single detail of your life, even what you would call the petty human needs, those are under the hashgacha, under the providence of the Ribbono Shel Olam, and the eyes of Hashem are on each and every one of us, and He is satisfying and fulfilling those things that we need in our lives to survive and to live. And therefore, Rav Hirsch writes the following idea, and that is like this. He says that the eights, this tree that was thrown into the, remember, they come to the water, there is water, but it's bitter, they cannot drink it, and Moshe Rabbeinu throws the wood into the water, and from that piece of wood that he throws into the water, it suddenly sweetens all the water, which is a nace in and of itself. That's not usually what happens when you throw wood into water. That was a miracle. And that miracle was allowed them to be able to drink the water. But he points out the following idea. It says over here in the pasuk, it says, "Vayimteku hamayim sham." HaKadosh Baruch Hu sweeten the waters, sham sam loichoik, and over there He established for them a law. Says of Hirsch that HaKadosh Baruch Hu instructed Moshe Rabbeinu, when you throw that wood in, he threw the wood into the water and it became sweet. And Sham, there, at that place, through this experience, they came to realize that even the most bitter experiences that a person goes through in life, they become sweetened through Hashem's laws, which are associated with them. Because over here Chazal teach us that, as it says, he established a law, an ordinance, and attested them. What did HaKadosh Baruch Hu give them? HaKadosh Baruch Hu began giving them some of the laws of the Torah. And therefore HaKadosh Baruch Hu was teaching Klal Yisrael a very important lesson. And that is that as long as you are holding on to the Torah in your life, as long as the Torah is what is guiding you and is leading you, as long as your connection to the Torah is strong, and it is something that is piercing, pulsating through your flesh, through your blood, through your soul, through your mind, so then as long as you have Torah, whatever situation you're going to go through in your life, it could be bitter on the surface, but the Torah is going to come along and sweeten everything. Because when you hold true to Torah and to mitzvahs and the life that we are supposed to lead, then everything in the world begins to fall into place. And that's the koyach, that's the power of the Torah. It's not that you're traveling through the wilderness and all you're hanging on to is your emunah, your faith in Hashem. Hashem makes miracles, so since Hashem makes miracles, well, now I don't know if I'm in such a miraculous place right now. But if a person is steadfast with the Torah in their lives, and a person allows that to be the guiding light of what they are going through, says Rav Hirsch, that means that Hashem can make the water which is bitter, He will make it sweet. Which means that anything in your life that requires siyata d'shemaya, requires HaKadosh Baruch Hu's help, requires Him to be there to get you through it, as long as you are holding on to the Torah, then it will guide you and take you through anything that you're going through. Which means that although Vayaminu ba'Hashem v'Moshe avdai, although Klal Yisrael came to a level of tremendous emunah, belief in Hashem, and Moshe and all of his nevuahs, his prophecy, when they saw Kriyas Yamsuf, the splitting of the sea, although that they were lifted up to the level of Nevi'im that were greater than Yecheskel ben Buzi, who had the most miraculous nevuahs, prophecies of the chariot, Hashem's chariot, they were higher up than even that, say Chazal. All of that is good in the moment when you see the revelation of Hashem. But where are you going to be able to see the revelation of Hashem in your life all of the time? That's the Torah. You don't need open miracles to see the revelation of Hashem. You don't need to see the split to be able to know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is with you. You don't need the miracle of the plagues coming through the land of Egypt and seeing how HaKadosh Baruch Hu's hand is doing all these things to know that the Ribbon Hashem is right with you. Says the Torah, all you need is the Torah itself. And a Jew that has Torah in his life, a Jew that's living Torah in their life, a Jew that is following what the Torah says in their life, all of that is going to be the guiding light. It's going to be the eye-opening truth of their life that's going to show them and allow them to understand HaKadosh Baruch Hu is right here with me. If I'm walking through the wilderness and I need water, I don't have to worry. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has promised me in His Torah that He's going to take care of me. If I need a job, I have nothing to worry about. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has promised me in His Torah, He's not going to leave me alone and leave me destitute and leave me without what I need to be able to put food on my table. It will be there. If a person needs a refuah, and that's really the next part of this pasuk says, V'yoymar, and Hashem says, Im shamay tishma l'koil Hashem l'kecha, if you listen to the voice of Hashem your God, Vayosha be'einav taseh, and you'll do what is right in his eyes. You'll listen to his mitzvahs. Ushmarta kol chukav, and you'll guard all of his statutes. Kol hamachla shesamti b'mitzrayim, all of the sickness that I put into Egypt, le'asim alecha, I will not place upon you. Ki ani Hashem rofecha, I am Hashem, your healer, I'm the doctor. Which is a pretty miraculous promise that the Torah is making over here, and that is, if you are steadfast in your adherence to the mitzvahs, if you're trying your best to keep the mitzvahs that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us, then the sicknesses that HaKadosh Baruch Hu placed upon the Egyptians in Egypt will not be on a Jew. Because if the point of life is to do mitzvahs, and the point of life is to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, everybody knows that when you are sick, it's hard to serve Hashem. So Hashem says, I'm going to keep you healthy. I'm going to keep sickness away from you. I'm going to keep you in a way that you're going to be able to have the power, the energy, the strength that you need to be able to serve me. So says the Torah, that if you in fact are a person who lives with Torah, you're living with Hashem. And once that you're living with Hashem, you can know, like we learn in the Torah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes care of every little thing in your life, even down to the glass of water that you would like to drink when you're thirsty. The Rav Chaim Shmulevitz once was traveling on a very, very hot day in Yerushalayim. They have something called the Eretz Yisrael Chamsin. Chamsin is when it gets sweltering heats, there's no wind, there's no air. And in those days, there wasn't much air conditioning, and nobody had air conditioning in their apartments. I remember when I was a bacher in yeshiva, nobody had air conditioning. 30 years ago, in Yerushalayim Kodesh, in the communities that we were in, the very religious, nobody had air conditioning in their house. And when it was a chamsin, 100 and something, 10 degrees outside, it was like an oven outside. Inside the house was even a bigger oven. I remember coming to my Rebbe's house once, Rav Schwartz, it was a chamsin, and we came to pick up lunch, and they opened the door. It's pitch black in the house. There's like fans that are blowing. The kids are like sitting in shirts that they had soaked in water, and they were sitting in wet shirts to try to cool off. I remember his elderly mother-in-law, an old Temani woman, was there. She looked like a scene out of a book from Yemen, just sitting there with the heat and trying to stay cool. That was what a chamsin is. So now Rav Chaim Shmulevitz, the Rosh Yeshiva of the Mir, he wears a long coat and a big hat, and he has a very big beard like this as well. And he's walking in a sweltering day, and he has to get to the bus, because he's taking a bus to, I don't remember, he's going to Bnei Brak or something like that. He gets onto the bus, and there's air conditioning in the bus. And he sits down, and he says, Bishvali Nivra Ha'olam. The world was created just for me. It's so hot outside, I have to take a long ride now, and here it is, HaKadosh Baruch Hu brought the air conditioning, so I should be able to sit in comfort. That's not open, revealed miracle, but that's the way that Hashem runs the world. And that's what it's saying over here in the Torah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, He guides the footsteps of everyone, and He takes care of everything, not only the big things. HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes care of the little things, but only if you're living your life according to the Torah, and you're embracing the Torah, are you going to be able to recognize and to realize that every little detail in your life is fully taken care of by Hashem. Klal Yisrael complained. Why did they complain? Because they thought at this moment HaKadosh Baruch Hu only does revealed miracles. He only does big things, extraordinary things. Little things? Who says Hashem does little things? Says Moshe Rabbeinu, let me teach you a lesson. Even the little things, HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes care of. And you have nothing to worry about. But the caveat is, you must embrace the Torah. Someone that has Torah, he understands HaKadosh Baruch Hu is running the world. Someone who doesn't have the Torah, he can't see that Hashem is running the world like that. I want to leave you off. I thought that I was jet lagged, but it looks like everyone's jet lagged here tonight. So I'm going to leave you off with one last story. And I think stories always keep people awake, so I'll tell one story over here. There was a chasana, a wedding that was taking place. It was supposed to be like the wedding of the century. It was two very wealthy Jews. Their children were getting married to each other. And if you've ever been to the wedding of a wealthy individual, it's over the top in everything that is there. It's over the top in how big the band is. It's over the top the kind of food that they're serving. It's over the top in the decor. It's over the top in everything. So everybody was excited to come to this wedding of the two wealthy men marrying off their children. Now, one of the people that was coming to the chasana was a man by the name of Rabbi Chaim. He is the cousin of the Kala. And he walked in. He's busy learning in BMG in Lakewood. And he came in a little bit late. And he walked past the table that had all of the, sometimes they have very fancy tables with cards like hanging down from the ceiling. You have to know how to pick out your card to see which table you're going to sit in. He missed that. And he walked into the main ballroom. And he's looking around. Where's he going to sit? So he's looking at this mamish packed, everybody's there, and he sees one table, a 12-seat table, and there's only 11 people sitting there. He says, you know what, there's an empty seat, let me go sit down over there. He sits down at the table that, unbeknownst to him, is the 11 other wealthiest men that are at this chasana. And so now Chaim, the younger man, the Kolo guy from BMG, sits down at the table with the wealthiest of the wealth of this at this wedding. And they nod him when he sits down. They say hello, and he turns back. He says hello, and they begin asking, not who are you? They begin asking that famous question. So what do you do? You're in. Are you in old age homes? You're in finance. You're in real estate, medical supplies. So what do you do? No, I don't do any of that. So then what do you do then? He said, I learn in Koilel, in BMG, in Lakewood Yeshiva. Ooh, so some of them, very impressed. Many, Baruch Hashem, the many wealthy people that support those people that are sitting and learning Torah all day long because they hold that it's the most chashuv thing, the most amazing thing. And there were a lot of the men at this table. Wow, very nice. Kol hakavod, keep up the good work. There was one fellow at the table, a wealthy man, who, being a member of the Koilel in BMG, was not so impressive to him. And he says in a very loud voice, tell me, Chaim, he says, how in the world do you support yourself? So, Chaim sheepishly says, look, Baruch Hashem, the Koilel gives me a stipend. My wife works. I tutor some boys at night. We get a little help from our family on both sides, and Baruch Hashem, we eke out a living and we're able to maintain our budget and pay our bills at the end of every month. Okay? Enough said. Silence at the table, they start schmoozing with each other, and now the Gvir who asked him the question to begin with, he says very loud at the table, he says, Chaim, he says, you realize, don't you, that the father of the Kala makes more in one day than you and your wife make in an entire year. And Chaim says, yes, I'm aware of that. He said, but there's something that I have that they don't have. And the rich man says, oh, really? And what would that be? And he says, enough. He said, they never have enough. And Baruch Hashem, I have enough. Says the Torah about Klal Yisrael in this week's Parsha. HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes nisim geluyim. He opened miracles for the Jewish people. And a Jew might think, well, for the open miracles, Hashem will take care of. Well, what about the little things in life? The little things in life, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you have nothing to worry about. you're always going to have enough. Whatever you will need, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will take care of it. Is it water? Is it a job? Is it some health? Is it some money? Is it children? What is it? What do you need? You don't have to live in the world of extraordinary miracles. Like the Ramban says at the end of last week's Parsha, everything in life is a miracle. Says the Rav Hirsch in this week's Parsha, not only is life miraculous, but when you live the life of Torah and you hold on to it, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will take care of all of your needs. We should be Zeichem Yetz Hashem to always learn from the successes and the failures of the Jewish people, that although that we are very well versed and we excel in the art of complaining, there's nothing for a Jew to complain about. A Jew that has Torah in their lives realizes that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is with me and taking care of me all the time. I don't need to complain at all. To daven? Yes, you can daven. To ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu things? Yes. To improve your ways and do better, to be meritorious and merit more things? Yes, it could be. But to complain? A Jew never has anything to complain about. And Be'ez Hashem, just as HaKadosh Baruch Hu taught them the lesson that even in the most bitter moments of your life, when you throw the Torah inside, it sweetens those bitter waters. So whatever bitterness a person has in their life, if you throw in the Torah, it will become sweet, and we'll realize HaKadosh Baruch Hu, just as you split the sea for Klal Yisrael thousands of years ago, you're going to take care of my water, you'll take care of my shoes, you'll take care of my clothing, you'll take care of my heat and my air conditioning and my home and my marriage and my this and my... Hashem takes care of everything. So Be'ez Hashem, we should not be the complainers. We should be the believers in Hashem and the koyach and the power of His Torah. Have a wonderful night, everyone. Now get some sleep, please.
Thank you, Rabbi.